When you think of a low-tier character, what do you think of? Most of the time, people imagine a joke character. Someone who was destined to be low-tier because it's funny. Look at the Goober. They're literally built worse than everyone else. Kinda like you if you think about it. However, most low tiers weren't especially designed to be terrible. In fact, in the modern day, you can be a joke and still be somewhat successful. It kinda like me if you think about it. Most characters that end up being bad are for more complicated reasons than we thought it would be funny. In a previous video, we looked at Strive's old, arguably worst character in the game. But since the Queen has showed everyone just what she's capable of, with enough dedication and skill gap, we could pretty easily say that Dizzy is no longer the worst character in the game. While Dizzy was kind of just designed weird and ended up getting a buff that helped her become viable, I'm not saying good. Remember, gap. Another character got the reverse treatment. With the 2.0 rebalance, one character has been sent plummeting from tournament winning character to the worst character in the game. Let's talk about Aber. With the 2.0 update, a lot of characters were nerfed. Like, a lot of characters. A standard trend with these nerfs was that characters who didn't neatly fit into a specific archetype were forcefully shoved into one. Hit and run characters were sent more towards a standardized zoning playstyle, aside from Dizzy, funnily enough. So they would function closer to how people would expect them to when looking at their kits. But this leads to a weird problem. How do you fit Aber into a neat little box? Trick question, you don't. Aber is a weird character in the best kind of way. She is simultaneously one of the slowest and fastest characters in the entire game, with some of the strongest pressure that the game has to offer, as well as having the safest and most committal neutral. This is all thanks to her main gimmick. Aber is the stance character of Strive. Other characters have stances that are important to their game plan, but Aber cannot exist without her stance. Aber has two separate modes, normal mode and jealous rage. While in jealous rage, Aber becomes a better character in basically every way. Her speed nearly triples, her step dash turns into the fastest run in the game, most of her specials gain added properties that make them better, or at the very least just safer, and she gains access to insane pressure and mix-ups. Aber is generally referred to as a feast or famine character. It's not uncommon for Aber rounds to look extremely one-sided, even at the highest level of gameplay. Since if Aber gets a good hit on you with a quick activation into Jealous Rage, she could snowball the round to ending just like that. The opposite is also true. If she's never allowed to go into Jealous Rage, Aber doesn't exist as a character, and thus she can lose just as quickly. The tricky part is that Jealous Rage is not just gifted to you, it's a limited resource. She has a dedicated bar that shows how long she can be in Jealous Rage for. If she has less gauge than this line, she's not able to transform from normal mode to Jealous Rage without getting a key grab. The gauge depletes slowly as she's in Jealous Rage, and can be regenerated by hitting normal attacks in normal mode, as well as using a special parry move that gives her a huge chunk of the gauge. She can enter Jealous Rage with a manual transformation or by hitting this key grab. This move isn't a grab, it's a strike, but like it acts like a grab, so that's why we call it key grab. You know what, don't worry about it. If she manually goes back to normal mode while in Jealous Rage, she gets a chunk of the spent gauge back, allowing her to go back into Jealous Rage more easily. If she lets the bar run out, we'll get to it. So, she gets a hit in normal mode, goes into Jealous Rage, and kills the opponent. Pretty simple to understand, but super hard to execute. Because of that, Aber saw niche high-level play by some competitors, as her momentum-based playstyle didn't lend well to a tournament setting, but having her in your back pocket as a surprise pick could throw enough players off to get the big win that you want. Hell, she could even win tournaments if the player was good enough. But this is all pre-2.0. The times before everything was honestly better, but if you ask an Aber player about how it was before 2.0, they'd probably describe that as the good times and now as the terrible one. With the 2.0 patch, Abba got nerfed. Like a lot. Like a lot. Obviously, the removal of Wild Assault hit her particularly hard since she had Blue, which at the time was the best Wild Assault since it wasn't nerfed like Orange and White were, but the devs also took an absolute sledgehammer to half of her kit. While Jealous Rage was mostly untouched, the developers decided that Abba was too strong in the mode that she was supposed to be weakest in. I will now list off a bunch of nerfs that happened to Abba. I want to see if you can notice a trend. Nerf. Abba now starts with 25% Jealous Rage instead of 50. Nerf. The blowback on Heavy Slash in normal mode has been adjusted to make it harder to combo from. Nerf. Normal mode Fast Slash now has a recovery of 22 frames instead of 14, bringing its frame advantage down to -11 on block. Nerf. Bonding and Dissolving, also known as the key grab, has 2 extra frames of startup and is now -2 on block instead of being +2. Nerf. The follow-up to Menace and Groan is now -27 on block in both modes, and the advantage on hit is now +30 in normal mode and +48 in Jealous Rage, reducing combo and Oki potential. Nerf. Intertwine and Tilt is now -4 on block in Jealous Rage. Nerf. If Abba runs out of Jealous Rage meter, she is unactionable for 10 frames, meaning she can be punished by the opponent. Nerf. Abba now gets 25% of Jealous Rage refunded instead of 50%. Buff! Frenzy and Astonishment now starts blocking attacks on 5 frames instead of 7. Nerf. It now recovers in 53 frames. As you can see, they gutted the shit out of her. Jealous Rage is now much harder to enter and much riskier to stay in. With only 25% of the Jealous Rage meter at the start of the match, you essentially have one interaction with your opponent. If you choose to rip it at round start, which can easily lead to Abba getting snowballed if the interaction doesn't go her way. But even then, winning in normal mode has become much harder, since getting a good hit no longer translates into a large amount of Jealous Rage, or a guaranteed way to get the transformation. Even then, the small nerfs to Jealous Rage mean it's a lot harder to consistently and safely transition between the states of the character. The key grab nerf hurts especially hard, as it means if somehow Abba gets close to you while in normal mode, which... like how? She gets no kind of reliable pressure that she can then get an RPS situation off. Using key grab on block gives Abba an RPS situation in the opponent's favor, which is the exact opposite of what she wants when she's managed to crawl her way in. Close range normal mode Abba no longer feels like a massive threat, since she has no good way to loop her pressure or threaten a Jealous Rage transformation. Part of me agrees when the devs said that normal mode was too strong in its original form because, I mean, it was, but this is a bit too much. And now she doesn't even get the chance to function at the start of the match. There's Famine, and then there's this. Abba's a really cool character, and if my own analytics are anything to go off, people really like her, so seeing her in a terrible state is extremely upsetting. Most high-level Abba players have either moved to a different character to fill her spot, or just quit the game at this point. I imagine that Arctis knows at this point that Abba is absolutely terrible. Publicly available data shows that Abba is one of the only characters to not have any representation at the top of the ranked leaderboard. And I don't remember the last time I saw an Abba in a tournament at all. Not to mention she has the lowest win rate in Vanquisher alongside... oh, come on, man. She's not unplayable. Anyone can cook and strive. That's how it's always been, and how it always will be. But she's definitely lagging behind the pack. I'm no fortune teller, but I can definitely see buffs in her future. Hopefully she'll get a couple of revisions to some of the nerfs that she got, and that'll allow her to exist in a more comfortable state. But they do need to be careful. Abba wasn't the only character that was changed, and if they're not delicate with the things that they revert, and they give her a bit too much of her old power back, they could unleash an absolute monster into this game. running around and causing havoc on the entire player base. Well, that's probably what Arxis thinks, anyway. Besides, Arxis aren't one to knee-jerk overbuff a character, apart from that one time, but we'll just ignore that. I'm sure with the next guest character coming to Strive, we'll get our regular mid-season update, and I'm sure in that, Aber will get some love. Stay strong, Aber players. Your time in the spotlight shall come once again. As long as the king stops hoarding it.